the record button? I guess I'm not going to hit it. Have you heard of Prezi? Prezi? Just heard of this last semester, but wow. As far as cranking out or turning out a really awesome presentation, I would consider that for this project after seeing just how cool this other student's project was from last semester. And I will share that with you, like I said. Let me go back here and click into the assignment. I guess before I screen share this, and it's really pretty basic, but we'll talk about it. Before I screen share this, anybody have any questions about the class in general? We don't get a chance to meet a whole lot, but I think people are doing well and it seems like things are working. I'm fine if you have any questions whatsoever. That's why I'm here. So I'll be quiet for a second, have a little coffee. Anybody, anything? No? All right, cool. If you do have any questions, my goal for the class is to make this basically, I want you to have as much access to me as possible, right? So just like if you were, had a really small class size, or if this was, just something besides like a really big class where you feel lost in all the numbers and stuff like that. I've been going back and forth with people, helping people. I've had a few Zoom meetings with people from this class. Always willing to do that. So just that you know, if you need anything, I'm here for you. And yes, I don't know, I had my Bulls hat on earlier. I don't know where it is. I guess it's not football season anymore. Okay, let me see. All right, so it is due April 5th. It's worth 150 points. That's a lot. And basically, this is the one. Okay, so I teach 7 different classes at 3 different universities. Some Social 100s, a Deviance class, which I really like. Environmental sociology. But this class, and with my other ones, I try and do like a creative project, because you're writing papers all the time. And I know that. And a lot of the writing that you're doing for this class is like formal, technical, cited, researched writing. So I wanted this to be creative. So I went out on a limb, or maybe not, but I do feel like the more I teach, I've been teaching like 15 years, the more I teach, and then when I try and get extra creative, the more it confuses people. But it's like, I want there to be room for a creative assignment that you do that isn't just the same thing over and over and over again. So also a lot of my students learn in different ways. Got some people that are like visual learners. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not all. What happened? Legoland downstairs. Did you see my 13-year-old sneak past? Like, in a break between classes, we have a massive Legoland downstairs. I mean, massive, where we build once in a while. Anyway, so I wanted to do something creative. That is this project. If you read the project and you're like, wow, that's a really short explanation, I have no idea what to do, I'm fine with that. I'm okay with you, like having a little apprehension about it, but let's talk about it now. So you got to put the time into it, of course. It's worth 150 points, so that's a lot. And a good chunk of this class comes from that 150 points. Now, it's not due till, I think, like we said, April 5th or whatever. So you have plenty of time. I was known in college for perhaps starting projects or papers the night before. Let's just say that didn't work out for me always. So the more you take time ahead of time to do this in little bits and pieces, the better off I think you'll be. All right, I want you to think deeply about the implications of what we've learned in class and for how best to give a child a healthy life, okay? So compared to other assignments, you've got more choices with this one, and I want you to be more creative. I'm basically just reading this, and then we'll talk about it, and I'll show you examples. You'll select a hypothetical child in any country you like with specific socio-demographic characteristics, age, gender, social class, ethnicity, using any format you'd like except a traditional paper. All right. You can do a pamphlet, a poster. Not many people did that. Somebody did a recorded video presentation. A lot of people did PowerPoints. They just tried to integrate the elements of creativity into it, right? And so basically, you're going to provide advice to the child's parents, community, or country about how to raise that child to become a healthy adult. We're looking at many of these statistics throughout the course of the semester, so don't worry. You'll continue to look at these. I have PowerPoints. There's a lot of additional readings that I've set up for folks here on the syllabus that's not required, but has links to so many valuable articles and journals. And I'm assuming, or at least in the past, it's been the case that many people here are going into healthcare in some way, right? And so maybe this is a chance for you to look at it in a way that matters like so much from a human behavior and sociological standpoint. Like only some of it, right, is just this and this demographic and its behavior and how that manifests and what can we do about it furthermore, because we don't just look at things in sociology to be like, oh, wow, that's how many people that are teenagers are pregnant. Interesting. And then just walk away. No, we collect that data so that we can make some kind of positive, change or impact on society. So with this, I think that's the idea of this. How can you make a positive impact for their community, their parents, and say, here's what we've looked at, here's data, here's research, and here's how to raise a healthy child wherever you are. You need to have one or more specific target audience. You should create as if they're communicating directly to them. Address multiple causes of social inequalities in health that might impact the child, multiple levels of analysis, individual, family, social networks, community, country, and then look at the topics on the syllabus that we've studied from, and you might be able to get some ideas from it. So, tips for creating your project: the characteristic and location of the child, your target audience, what concrete steps you should take to ensure the child has a healthy life. And it's really your choice as to whether you provide explanations for why you're providing the recommendations, but your target audience isn't going to understand that, then it's not effective. So I always think in sociology, the most important thing is the why, right? It's not like, I don't like Obama, beep, beep, or visualize world peace, beep, beep, right? It's like we're a bumper sticker culture. And then we drive away, and then we never have to answer the big question, which is why, right? So how will these changes, if you're raising somebody, turn them or help make them a healthy child? And it's really interesting because I really wasn't thinking a whole lot about it last semester. Last semester was pretty intense for me. But I started thinking about it in relationship to my two sons, right? Which is Julie and I actually sat down and was like, we have a completely blank slate with these human beings. How are we going to raise a human being? So this isn't like just theoretical what you're doing. This is legitimate, right? We looked at things, Julie and I did, like diet and food. And then I said something like 7 months into it, like, why is our baby the only one eating all organic food? And Julie looked at me and said, well, because you complain about how much it costs. And I was like, busted, right? Okay, I won't do that. Can that make an impact? Well, I have 13 years and 15 years of data collected. What does it look like when people eat local, sustainable, organic, and not highly processed foods? Well, hey, speaking of food, the guys are ripped. They're massive athletes. They're top of their classes. Like, so for me, like one of the components to raise a healthy child is food. What access, what capabilities that or not have? What communities are in food deserts, even though you're in the middle of a giant city or something like that? So target audience is important, and it's important to think about this in a real way. Like, you're going to be working with real human beings in regards to their health, and you already are certainly working with your own health, even if you're not raising a healthy child currently, right? Or trying to raise a child currently. Okay. So what to turn in your project on Canvas, 11:59 on April 5th or before. I will provide, and we will look at today, a couple of example projects. Now, let me look at a couple of these. I was going to say any questions so far, but it's like, let me show you what I'm talking about, and then I think we'll all make those connections. Anytime during this, if you want to unmute your mic and ask me a question or type a question into the chat thing, please do. Any questions so far? Nope. All right, cool. So let me come over here And let me open up this project. Okay. Sorry, it's just going to take just a second to open these up. Okay. Come back here and do a screen share, and look at this one first, I guess. Right? How to raise a healthy child in Canada. So yeah, look, is it implicit in this project that you're going to have to use some visuals, some artistic discretion, absolutely, right? Because if you're really presenting this to people, and I want you to, like, simulation, if it's good enough, we could use it for something like that, right? It's got to be visually appealing. So remember that. So demographics of the child. Child is a 7-year-old male of Aboriginal identity. Here's some information about those populations of people. Here's some other stats. Here's your source listed in the bottom. Hypothetical child is growing up in a low-income neighborhood, right? Already specified socioeconomic status, right? Perhaps our greatest indicator of health. Now, this person moves into some health statistics for Canadian children, right? You've got your sources there. And sometimes you put them right on the screen or on your slide. Sometimes you refer to them and they're at the very end. Here's some ideas. Lowest income urban neighborhoods, low income families more likely to have emotional behavioral. Here's some of these pieces. So we've got physical pieces. We've got mental pieces. Health statistics specifically for Aboriginal children. There's a reference, right? Intersectionality theory. So what's important to do in this project? Connect sociologically, right? Like, yes, you should have references to Cocker Ham in this presentation of some sort, because you're taking this material, you're researching new material, right? Because you won't have, like, the people you choose, it's not necessarily going to be something straight out of our textbook, right? So you're going to be doing that research, and then you're finding, and of course it's intersectionality theory. So, hey, here we go. Perfect, right? Where do these things intersect? What does that mean? Sorry. Advice for the Canadian government, right? So you've got some basic stats. Advice for the government. Children's right to cultural continuity is affirmed in the Canadian Constitution, but right, so more historical awareness is necessary. Advice to the Aboriginal community. So this person is taking it big and then breaking it down and still staying true to that sort of, whole idea of this is who I'm looking at. Okay. Now, again, I think that's a great example of a project, or at least a good example of a project. Let me share another one here with you. Okay. All right. Where do we go with this? Oh, sorry. Hold on just a second. Oh my goodness. All right. Just gonna do it like this. I think this bar is in front of what I need. Oh, there we go. Okay. So let me go back. So sorry about that. These things up. Okay. Anyway, dear parents and government, here's my advice for raising healthy children in our society. Overview. Who is the child? Who is the child? Hispanic girl, 5 years old, comes from low socioeconomic status. Look, some people are like, gave this person a name. Some people gave them a little bit more of a background, right? Who's the targeted audience? The social institutions of family and the government. Step 1, learn. Step 2, master. Step 3, does that say implement there? Yep, implement. Again, trying to lay it out as clearly as possible. The power of class, conflict theory, health lifestyle paradigm. I think these could be fleshed out a little bit more, but I like how these have some bold faces for some of the headlines. Now we're laying it out. This person has a table of contents. The other one didn't necessarily, but they're trying to be as, direct as possible. So the first step, learn the characteristics of a healthy child, right? What are the characteristics of a healthy child? Here's the different dimensions that we look at: developmental health, physical health, spiritual health, social health, all different dimensions, right, that we're considering in this class and just in sociology in general. Developmental stages. Not everything, some sociology, some things are broken up as far as developmental stages. The other person did not choose to do that. How are developmental stages and health connected? Okay, here's the thing about projects. If you're going to lay out information, right, and present information, connect the dots. Make sure that we know if you're going to say that they're connected or that it's important to look at, then connect those dots, right? Second step, master the dimensions of children's health and how to prioritize these dimensions. Physical health. Raising a rising epidemic childhood obesity mentioned here. Now, childhood obesity is a really, 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 really broad topic. Something more specific than a couple of these, would be good. Again, you have a target audience. So you want to think to yourself, the reason I like this slide, even though that stuff is blurry, it could be a better picture, is just because not every slide has to be jam-packed, right? You don't want to overwhelm people. The last presentation was good, might be a little heavy and need on academic stuff, which is important, but consider your presentation, what people are going to read, how much per slide you really want to put on there. Social health, it's really just following each of these. Parents must ask yourself, is my child meeting developmental milestones? And here's some developmental milestones. Implement change, right? I think this is great for any project because if you're presenting this to parents, or to a community or somebody who's going to raise a healthy child, look, I'm just going to admit it myself. Sometimes it's like, how do I flip through the instruction manual to the what do I need to do part, right? So you want to make the what do I need to do part really clear and really easy and entertaining as well. Okay, so I kind of get down here, references, and thank you. Okay, I'm gonna stop this real quick. That's another approach. Now let me do one last one and see if it's still there. Yeah, I know I'm totally a nerd for sociology and presentations, but that's why I think this Prezi one is so cool. So let me screen share. I'm gonna do this, gonna share. Here we are. Look at this. All right. And I think I don't know why I think it's so cool. Right? Like food deserts, adolescent food insecurity. What does that mean? Growing food. What are food deserts? Each section has the questions that it's going to address, right? Getting into food deserts, physical accessibility, individual resources, neighborhood resources. Raising a healthy child has a lot to do with food access. If food access is a hangup or is an issue or there's research that can be detrimental, that's one of the things we're looking at all semester long, right? All right. Who and where does it impact? Links. I like this because the links and the stats and the sources aren't too huge. They don't take up all the room. You know what I mean? Like, they're there. Boom. All right. COVID-19 and food insecurity, which really, really, really has changed our food system. And it's changed our food system for people that have access to Whole Foods and vitamin cottages, or it's changed access for people that just have gas stations. That's why I think this person took so much time to include a food desert. And this is like people who are food insecure, right? Is the target basically of this one. I think that the target of this could be a little bit more pronounced, but there are so many intersectionalities that we get to with food and health and nutrition and developmental outcomes that it matters, right? Living in the United States, health outcomes, developmental, childhood development, right? It's got a source, cognition. What does that matter to a kid's education? How is that related to life chances? Advice, right? recognizing if the child is at risk, reaching out, adopting lifestyles, and helping out. This is awesome. And look, does it matter if your presentation is visually appealing? Again, it does, right? I mean, how many times have you clicked on a video or you were going to look at something and you just were like, yeah, nope, doesn't look like anybody spent any time on this, or it's just not, it doesn't rope us in because it's not appealing. So assistance, where you can get the assistance, volunteering at a food bank, furthermore, and then here it is, right? Now, am I looking for, does your project have to have the fanciest presentation like this? No, I think only one person turned in something that was like that, but it was awesome, right? So if you're not super technological or that's not your thing, you could do something else. Somebody made a bunch of pamphlets and then sent them to people, and you know, the in-person thing is difficult. Again, but somebody I think did one about food insecurity and socioeconomic status, and then proposed and called grocery stores and found a couple that would take their pamphlet. They didn't actually have them distribute it, but they did some of the back work, right? They interviewed some people. I think interviewing people in these demographics, if you choose a demographic or have access to one, would be a really great idea. There are just a lot of ways that you can go about this project, but my hope would be that overall, creatively as possible is how you would do it. Okay, what questions do you have for me?
I have a question.
Yep.
So when you're creating the PowerPoint or whatever kind of presentation you're making,
Mhm.
does it, so it just has to have a target audience and then you make that presentation based on your target audience?
Yep. Yeah. And like I said, the food insecurity piece was a bit broad, but because it was so specific and so many groups, that's an issue. I thought it was well done. But I think most of them really do contain, who is this person? What is this child like? Or children in this community as a cross section? And how would you appeal to parents or schools? You know, and it can even go past that, right? Like, are there local CSAs in your community that you can get kids connected to, growing food in an organic garden, or I don't know, right? If that was the thing, school children of a certain age in a certain place, what access do people have? Even in town like Fort Collins or Boulder, who has access to CSAs and growing food in schools that have organic gardens, and who doesn't? And how can that connect kids to their food? And anyway, so yeah, I would be as specific as possible, because then that's where we pull stats from and research, that's relevant. And again, not everybody experiences the same thing, right? By far. And whether we're talking about climate justice, environmental justice, social justice, racial justice, you name it, it's not the same. So people experience in this life, even within a community or a culture or a society, experience it very differently. Should we pick the place first and then research target problem? I don't know. I think that's up to you. I did have a couple people picked places that they had traveled to or that they wanted to. I'm interested in living in Norway, so I want to know what it's like, and so how and why you choose your demographic is completely up to you. Yeah. Other questions? And I'm fine with just anything.
I got a question. So are we just submitting it on the due date, or are we all getting on class and presenting it to the entire class with whatever project you have?
That's a great question. I mean, if somebody did a live presentation, I would love it. And we wouldn't all have to be here, but if there were a handful of live presentations and we could do a Zoom meeting where we each see it for 5 or 10 minutes, that's fine with me. You could record it, and do like a video presentation that's a recorded piece that you submit that's similar. So to me, if you think that if you want to do it live, let me know. It's almost like lecturing about something, hey, sorry, I look like I'm grabbing the window, but my cat Ziggy Marley is trying to jump up on here. And he's like 14, so mostly I just let Ziggy Marley do what Ziggy Marley is going to do, but not this time. All right. Okay, so does that answer your question? It can be recorded, it can be live. however you, but if you do perceive that we might want to meet, or a few people could watch it, or we could do a class session for it, I'm cool with that too. You know, somebody did like almost like a news report, and did like a video that they had edited and had things come in and out of. And it was, so I did see, and somebody did also a video or an audio recording of reading of some things and a presentation that way, which I thought was interesting. A majority of these have been PowerPoints, but I've only done this, for a couple semesters, this project. And I think that there are also some ones that did not fall into that realm. So again, I think there's room to be creative outside of the PowerPoint world or whatever. And then there's some super creative ways to do that too. So anybody else?
I have another question.
Yep.
So as far as the material in your presentation, are you allowed to research a lot of the concepts that you want to implement in your presentation? And can you link those with, different childhood social factors maybe, or even just factors to raise a healthy child in general? Can you link those yourself, or do they have to be linked by an actual research theory or something like that?
Do you have maybe an example, like a personal experience, you mean?
Yeah, sort of. You could base something another some factor that hasn't been related directly, in a paper or something.
Yeah.
You can relate that based on your own personal experience.
Yes, and I would say that most human beings that have experienced something have had another human being write about that experience in some way or another, even if it's not massively shared on a big societal scale. So yeah, if it's a personal experience and then you can connect it to other factors and research, definitely. Because this is also, if you're speaking to a population of people across the world that you don't have anything to do with, but you have statistics, fine. Or if it's near to you, or a population of people that makes sense that you have this experience, you know what I mean? We just have to make sure that it's somewhat insightful and personal, and somewhat, research connected. Then we've got both of those, because there's a lot of value in relaying those experiences in a way that is personally connected. I think a lot of value in that, especially if you're actually, again, talking to people, yeah, absolutely. Good questions all around. Any other questions?
I have a question. For something as broad as intersectionality, or you said on one of the presentations, the obesity epidemic was a little too broad. How could you still mention those, but in a way that wouldn't make the whole presentation seem broad?
Well, if there's a component of obesity in a certain population, I don't want people to not talk about it. I'm just saying they're these things that are very broad. Certainly you can mention broad topics and then try and apply them to your specific demographic. Does that make sense?
Okay, so for intersectionality, you would just want to find one of the most common forms of intersectionality within that population?
You could.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And I think that social connection is something, again, that I said, but if you're in a social class and you're making these social connections, the reason that, this isn't, another medical class of some sort, is that we're looking at human behavior, human tendencies, and really that keeps us guessing, right? And is not always easily predictable, even with statistics. So yeah, I just think making sure that we also frame this in a, this is really truly what would be of value to somebody in this demographic, applicable more than theoretical would be great. What's up? I'm Ziggy Marley. How's it going? There you go. Yep. I think Zion named him, my youngest guy, he's 13. His name is Zion. And he's, even before we named him Zion, really into reggae music. And so I think he named him Ziggy Marley when he was 2 or 3 years old. It was that was just the name. So anyway, all right, everybody. Any more questions? Nope. Please, if you want to Zoom meet, if you want to just email me, if you have any questions whatsoever, I've tried to have a fast turnaround on your content assignments because I want you to be able to use them, and know what to expect for your next one. I've been giving kind of general comments at this point. Make sure you got some personal insights, some citations, a work reference page or works cited page, you number each one. That being said, if there's anything that isn't clear to you, please reach out to me because it's not my job to trick you. It's my job to help you succeed at this business of social. All right. Be good people and do good things, mask up and stay warm. I think that's everything. Be good people, do good things, mask up, stay safe, be warm, all of those things. Peace, everybody. Take care. Oh, yeah, Emily, you can stick around and we can chat for a second. Sure.
Hi, sorry about my food.